What's up guys, welcome back to a brand new course, and in this course we're going to be learning how to do product visualization inside of Unreal Engine 5. We're going to be making 3 realistic product renders in realistic environments inside of Unreal Engine 5. We're going to be learning how to import models in Unreal Engine 5. We're going to be building the whole scene from scratch. We're going to be doing the texturing, the lighting, and finally the rendering. Now in some parts of this course we are going to be using very basics of Blender 3D. So if you do know the basics of Blender 3D, that is going to be very helpful for you. But if you don't know Blender and you know any other 3D software, then that is perfectly fine as well. Anyways, so without any further ado, I'm going to be showing you the renders and then we can start the course. Alright, so this is going to be our first render right here. You can see that we're going to be importing a watch 3D model, and we're going to be texturing it all inside of Unreal Engine 5. We are going to be using some Blender to import the model first and make sure that there's no problems with the normals and everything. But apart from that, everything else is going to be done inside of Unreal Engine 5. Apart from that, we're going to be using some Megascans assets. Everything you see here, all these assets right there in the background and all that stuff, those are Megascans assets. We're also going to be exploring some interesting lighting techniques. For example, using objects to add shadows and block light in certain areas to make it look more dramatic and more cinematic. So we're going to be exploring a lot of different things. And if you're a beginner, making this render in Unreal Engine 5 is going to take your skills to the next level. We're also going to be exploring some interesting camera angles and some ways to make your camera more cinematic and more realistic. And yeah, so if you stick around for this render, I'm guaranteeing you that you're going to learn quite a lot. After that, we're going to be making this render right here. So this is basically a lotion tube container, which we're going to be importing. And then we're going to be adding a label. Now we made this label inside of Canva, but you can use any other software, for example, like Photoshop or anything like that. But apart from that, we're going to be making this whole scene from scratch. We're going to be exploring how to do HDRI lighting and how to sort of use HDRIs to make your scene look a lot more realistic. We're going to be using different lighting techniques, for example, using the 3-point lighting setup. As you can see, there's some rim lights right here. So yeah, we're just going to be exploring different techniques to make your renders look very, very realistic. And yeah, so in this render, you're going to be learning quite a lot as well. And after that, finally, we're going to be making this render right here, which is going to be a cologne bottle inside a very dramatic scene. And again, the techniques are going to be very similar to the last 2 renders, but this render is mainly going to be for practice. So you guys can sort of use the skills that you learn and create something unique and create something which you can add to your portfolio and all that stuff, right? So overall, all these renders are going to take your Unreal Engine skills to the next level, and you're going to be learning quite a lot. And you can also add all of these projects to your portfolio as well to get more clients. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the course, and I hope I'll see you there. Alright guys, so let's go ahead and get started with the first render, which is of this watch right here. So if I just minimize this and open the Unreal Engine project, you're going to see that this is our setup. So basically we have the watch, we have individual pieces of the watch, we have a wooden slab kind of thing, which is below it, and we have, let me just get out of the camera so I can just show you sort of I'm just going to go to the default viewport so I can just show you the basic setup that we have going on here. So these are just wooden materials applied to random blocks just to sort of just add a background. It's going to be blurred anyway, so it doesn't really matter what we add. And I just added some of these random assets just to add some visual interest to the background. And then we also added this door right here to sort of just add some shadows to the light, which was the sunlight which was coming from there. So it just makes it look a little more interesting. So yeah, now if I remove the door, you can see that if I just turn it off like that, you're going to see that it looks pretty flat, right? But if I add more shadows to it, it looks it adds some depth, right? Some depth and some more visual interest to our scene. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with making this whole render. And firstly, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go to File, and I'm going to go to New Level. Now you guys might not be able to see the file up there because I think it's being cut off by the recording, but I'm pretty sure you know where it is. So just click File, and then we can click New Empty Level. Just click Create, and it's going to be something like this. Now if you don't have an Unreal Engine project set up already, I'm just going to show you how to do that as well. So just open Unreal Engine, and alright, so once Unreal Engine opens, you're just going to go to Games, and you're going to click Blank right here. Make sure it's set to Blueprint. Make sure the quality preset is set to maximum. And if you can turn on ray tracing, if you have an NVIDIA RTX graphic card, then be sure to turn it on. If you can't, that's fine as well. But it is going to make your renders look a little better, especially when it comes to those shadows, the areas with shadows. It is going to make those areas look a little better if you have ray tracing turned on, right? Then you can just set your project location, set your project name, and just click Create. I'm not going to do that because I already do have this project opened. But yeah, once you have the project open, then everything else is pretty much the same. So once you have a new level, you can just press Control S just to save the level. I'm just going to call it ProdViz for product visualization underscore course underscore 1, because we're doing 3 renders I think in this course. So this is the first render, so that's why I named it O1. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and get the watch first, the watch model. For that, we're going to go to the internet and we're going to search for watch 3D model, just like that. And there's a lot of websites that you can use to get 3D models. The ones which I prefer are Sketchfab and CG Trader. So you can just open both of those. And yeah, now this really comes down to your personal preference. You can just essentially just get any watch that you want. But yeah, be sure to, if you want a free watch, be sure to select free, because otherwise it's going to show you paid as well. But yeah. So I think the one which I got previously was, it's always hard to find the watches that you got before again, because usually when I'm trying to like look for assets, I spend like a lot of time looking for assets, and I think it was from Sketchfab. I'm pretty sure. Make sure to turn on downloadable, by the way, if you are looking for free 3D models which are downloadable. Yeah, I think it was this one, Timex Expedition watch. So but yeah, you shouldn't feel restricted by this model. Be sure to like you can go ahead and select any model that you want. The process is going to be pretty much the same, so yeah, just go ahead and select any watch that you want. But yeah, once you've selected a watch, make sure to inspect it, make sure that the triangles that it has, the geometry that it has is enough. Something around 100,000 or like maybe 300,000, it should be enough. If it's way more than that, then that's good. But the problem is, it's good for the quality, but the problem is going to be pretty slow on your computer. Like it's going to make your computer very slow. However, if it's like very less, if it's like 5,000, 10,000, then it's going to be very low poly and it's not going to look that good. So just be sure to like select like a point which is, make sure to look for a model which is like, which has a reasonable amount of geometry, not too much, not too low. But yeah, once you have a model ready, you can just click download 3D model. All right, so in the formats, I usually like to go with GITF format because for me personally, it's been like the most reliable. Like I've had the least amount of issues with GITF. So I just like to prefer going with GITF, even though they have Blender format. I would not go with that because some of the textures won't be applied and there's going to be some problems pretty much always. But GITF has always been like pretty reliable for me. So I'm just going to go with that. So I'm just going to download, and also the file size is smaller as well, so yeah, there's that as well. And so you can see that we have a bunch of objects right here, so I'm just going to select all of them, right click, copy, and then we can just go ahead, and I already have this folder called watch course, so I'm just going to delete everything which is inside here, and I'm just going to paste all my all the objects here. Right now we can go ahead and open Blender, and in Blender what we can do is we can just delete everything, and we can go to file, import, and then select GITF 2.0, and then you can browse over to wherever you had that saved, wherever you had the model saved. So scene.gitf, just import this right here, click import, and it should be imported perfectly fine. Perfect, that looks pretty good. The only thing is that we have these extra objects which I don't really need, so I'm just gonna delete these, click them and delete them like this. Oops, my bad. And once everything is deleted, you can see that our model looks pretty good. Just make sure to inspect it and make sure there's no issues with anything. One other thing that you can do is you can also go to your viewport shading mode, your material preview mode, just to make sure all the materials are applied properly, which they are. And yeah, everything is in place, everything is applied, perfect. You can go back to your viewport shading mode. One last thing that we have to do before we export this is basically just click this icon right here, this drop down menu, click face orientation, and now it's going to show you all the normals for the object. You have to make sure that everything here is blue for it to work properly inside of Unreal Engine. Now some objects that you can see are actually red, and it's actually pretty simple to fix them. The way you do that is basically by selecting them. So to select them, so select this line right here, this whole object, press tab to go into edit mode, press A to select everything, go to mesh, normals, and then recalculate outside. Tab out of edit mode, and now you can see that that is fixed. And select this again, tab A, mesh, normals, recalculate outside. Perfect. I'm going to do the same exact thing with this as well. Tab A, mesh, normals, recalculate outside. And finally with this, tab A, mesh, normals, recalculate outside. And with this as well, tab A, normals, and then recalculate outside. Perfect. Now one thing I am going to do is I'm actually going to select the glass and press H to hide it. And I mean, I actually did this before, so that's why I know, but there's one object inside here as well, which is actually not correct normals. So if I move it, you're going to see that the normals are actually meshed for the whole circle back there. So we can just press tab A, mesh, normals, and recalculate outside. Now what we can do is we can press Alt H to unhide it, unhide our glass. So yeah. And we can turn off face orientation now, and you can see that the model is still perfect, but all the normals have been fixed as well. So that's it's just gonna make it better for Unreal Engine. Just be sure to like save your file, Blender file if you want. I'm just gonna save it just because. And now we can select File, Export, and then export as FBX. Always export as FBX for Unreal Engine because it's just what works. And yeah, just select FBX. Make sure that there's no cameras or anything like that, any extra objects in the scene, which they're not. Click export FBX and it should be done. Perfect. Now we can go back to Unreal Engine and we can get started with here. So first thing I'm going to do is actually I'm going to go to selection mode. Just click this right here and go to landscape mode, just so we can like, and just click create right here, just so we can like have, you know, like a basic landscape, a basic floor that we're working with, just to like get some perspective, you know. And also go to window, go to environment light mixer, and just click all these buttons. Click, so we have like a basic lighting setup. This is pretty simple. I'm pretty sure you know how this works, but yeah. So once you have that, now we can go ahead and import our watch. So I'm just gonna right click the content folder, create a new folder right here. I'm just gonna call it watch underscore course, and make sure to create a folder because the watch had like multiple objects, so you know it's going to be weird if it's like all scattered throughout your whole content browser, and it's just generally good to like sort of keep things organized. So we have this watch.fbx file which we just exported, so we can just import that right here. Perfect. And make sure to turn off skeletal mesh. I'm not sure why it's turned on by default. It shouldn't be turned on, like we don't really need skeletal mesh. But yeah, so just import all, and just we have some errors right here, so just ignore them. And if I go down, you're gonna see that we have all the objects perfectly imported. So what we can do is we can actually select the first object. So you have to identify where the materials end and where the objects start. Go to the last object, hold shift and click that to select all the objects basically, and then you can just drag them inside your scene like that. And it's absolutely huge right now. So I usually like to work on scale, like, or at least close to scale. So I'm just gonna scale it down just for now. I'm just gonna scale it down like just randomly just for now. But what we can do is we can actually scale it properly. So the way we do that is basically if you just go to the internet and we search Unreal Engine 5 cube dimensions. So the cubes are, okay, so it says 1 meter, right? So the cubes are supposed to be 1 meter. So if I just add a cube like that, so this is supposed to be 1 meter, right? Let me move it closer to the watch. So obviously now if that is 1 meter, then the watch should be much lower than that, right? So let's see how big a watch is. Wristwatch dimension. Now we're not really going for like exact measurements, but we do want to we do want it to be like pretty close to what it's actually supposed to be, because that's going to affect our depth of field when we actually like add a camera and all that stuff. So yeah, so let's go ahead with something like 4 centimeters, right? So it should be pretty small compared to this. So we're going to select all the objects in the watch. So just select the first object in the watch, select the last one, and like basically hold shift and select the last one. And also while we have everything selected, make sure to just click this button right here to create a new collection with it. and just name this collection, triple click the collection to triple click the folder to name it watch or whatever, and you can right click the watch folder and just select all descendants. That's just a shortcut to select everything which is inside. So just make it smaller, something like that. So now what you can do is basically you can just select the cube. And so in the scale right here, in the details panel, it's set to 1, right? So it's basically 1 meter. So if you set this to 0.04, that should be 4 centimeters, right? So just set it to that. And this should essentially be our width of the watch, right? So to select the watch again, select all descendants. And basically, oops, my bad. Just undo that. Make sure to place it somewhere here. And what you can do is you can just go ahead and scale it down. Oops, even further, my bad. Don't scale it down so much that it just goes to negative scale, but yeah. So you should try to like get as close as you can. Obviously you don't need to be like super accurate or anything like that, but I think that should be enough. Select it again. Scaling down things in Unreal Engine is kind of a pain, honestly. But yeah. Okay, so our scale is perfectly fine. We can go ahead and delete the cube, and now our watch is to scale. Perfect. It's pretty small. But yeah. So we can also go ahead and reduce our camera speed just to like, make it easier for us to move around the watch. Perfect. So next up, what we can do is we can actually just go ahead and start working on the textures, right? So for the textures, we're going to be using Megascans textures. And so for that, we can just go to add Quixel content. And you might have to sign into your Epic account, but I think I've already done that. So what we can do is we can actually start to like look for textures. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with leather. Just look for leather, and you're going to have some assets as well, but what we're looking for is purely materials. So you can see these leather textures right here. These are leather materials right here. I think the one which I used was probably this one, like in the actual render. It was either that one or this one. It wasn't this one for sure. Then it must be this one. So, but yeah, once you have something that you want, you can just make sure to like select the highest quality, because materials aren't really that that large in size either. So it's good to like, have the highest quality. But once you have something selected, just be sure to add it. And applying materials is as simple as just dragging it on there. And you can see that it looks much better than the material that it came with. Alright, so one problem that you might be noticing right now is that if I go near the watch, you're gonna see that it starts to disappear. And that's really annoying, because like we obviously need to like, get close to the watch to like see the textures and everything. So the way you do that, the way you fix this problem is by going to edit, project settings, and in here you're gonna search for clip. And so this thing right here, near clip plane, this is what this setting is what controls it. So instead of 10, we can just set it to 0.01 or 0.001, doesn't matter. Just set it to any setting you want, which is like which is like a pretty low number. And so once we close it, you're going to see that it's not going to fix the issue right now. That's because we have to restart Unreal Engine for it to actually work. So I just like close Unreal Engine, and I'm going to open it again, and I'll see when it's opened. And now I just open Unreal Engine, and now you can see that I can go pretty close to the object, and it's never going to clip. So now you can see that the texture is looking pretty good. Yeah. And okay, so the next texture that I want to work on is, I can just open Quixel again. That would probably be so these stitches right here. So we can just search for leather again. Oops, I spelled it wrong. So now some of these textures you are going to find in Megascans, but for some of them you're actually not going to find them in Megascans. So we're going to use another thing for that. So I can just add this texture right here and apply it like that, and yeah, looks pretty good. I do this as well. Bring this down. And actually we can apply the same texture to this back as well, back part, because yeah. We are going to make some tweaks to it because like right now it's way too, it's very like rough and sharp, and I don't want it to be like that rough. So I'm just going to open the texture, and what we can do is we can simply just go ahead and change firstly the tiling. So just make sure to click that, just turn it on, and tiling X I'm just going to set it to 2 and Y to 2 as well. So once we set both of them to 2, the texture is just going to get smaller, so that's good. And so this normal strength, this thing right here, we're going to reduce this as well to something like 0.3. Now you're going to see that it's really going to become very light, and that's exactly what we're looking for. Perfect. So now what we can do next is we can just search for metal. So for a metal material in Quixel Megascans. Now I don't know if you have like a good metal material in Quixels in Megascans, but we can just look for it. Or what we can do is we can just go to home, surfaces, and then we can just go to metal, and we can maybe go to gunmetal. That might work. And yeah, I think these might work. Yeah, so something like this probably, brushed steel. So we can just download high quality of this. I think this should be good enough, honestly. It should work. Just add it and apply it to the sides. And yeah, I think it looks pretty good. We are gonna have to tweak this a little bit. I'm gonna do that in just a bit, but let me apply it to all the objects that I want it to be applied first. So the back as well. Like that. And oh, it was already applied. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. Now one problem is that it's too light. I want it to be a little darker, so I'm just going to open the material again. So we can just check albedo tint, and we can select this right here and reduce the value to essentially just make it darker like that. It's as simple as that. Now let's look for a glass material on Megascans. Now I don't think they're going to have a glass material because yeah, I don't think they have a glass material. So what I did for a glass material was I used, also be sure to save everything by the way. What I used was this texture pack, this material pack by Epic Games themselves, which is called Automotive Materials. Now this is a texture pack that I use in pretty much all my renders. It's supposed to be for cars, but you can obviously use it for a lot of different things because it comes with like pretty much every material that you would like, need in like most scenarios. So to install that, you can go to your Epic Games launcher. Just open that. And I'm pretty sure most of you would know how to install it because it's that common. But what you can do is you can go to Unreal Engine, Marketplace, and here you can search for Automotive Materials. Automotive Materials, and the first texture pack right here, it's made by Epic Games themselves, and you can see that it has a lot of different materials which we would need. So we can just download this. The download size I think is around 2 to 3 gigabytes. So you can just add it to project. If you have this problem in which it says no compatible projects found, you can just click show all projects, select any other projects that you want, and then select the highest version in this list right here, and then click add to project. Now I'm not going to do that because I already do have it added, but you can just go ahead and add it to your project. So once it's done, you can cross it out. And now you're going to see this folder called Automotive Materials. It's been added to your scene. So we can open materials and we can go to exterior and then glass. So we have some glass materials right here. You can experiment with different materials. So you can just see the difference between like some of them are more tinted, some of them have more reflection, some of them have like, different characteristics. And me personally, I think this one is nice because it doesn't have too much tint, but it also like gives you some reflections as well. Also, if your reflections are not looking good, what you can do is you can go to your settings and engine scalability settings. Make sure that they're set to cinematic. If they're set to epic, your reflections are not going to look good. Make sure to set them to cinematic. Now this is going to come with a performance cost, so what you can do is you can essentially just set it to epic while you're working, but before rendering just set it to cinematic, so it's just going to give you that better render, And okay, so now you can see the materials inside there are not actually applied. So let's go ahead and do that next. Let's apply the materials. And yeah, I think apart from that, we have pretty much everything else done. So yeah, let's do that. Now I'm gonna select the glass and I'm just gonna hide it by clicking this eye icon right here. So just hide it so that we can work with things below it. All right, so first things first, what we're gonna be doing is that we're gonna be applying the material to this watch face right here. So what we can do is we can go back to our folder, which is in which we have the watch, so watch course. And so what we can do is we can just select the material which we had. Where is it? Did it not import? Pretty sure it did. Yeah, I don't think the material imported. So what we can do is we can just simply go back to our folder which had the watch. So right here, watch course, go to textures, and what we can do is we can just select all these textures and just import them like that. Just drag them in. So I think this is the watch texture, so you can just apply it like that. Also, if you can't really tell which texture it is, you can just open it and then just look at it like this. And yeah, so this is the watch texture, the watch face texture. You can open this just to see what this is. So this is the texture for this thing right here. So just apply it to this like that. And what else? Where's the material for this, the side thing? I have no idea what it's called. It might be, is it this? Oh yeah, it is that. So just apply this to here. Perfect. So now our materials have been applied as well, and I think it looks pretty good. So now we can apply, actually one thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to apply the metal. Let me search for the metal material. It was brushed metal, right? Brushed steel, yeah. I'm just going to apply the brushed steel material to this as well. And what we can do is we can actually look for, actually apply it to this part as well. And does anything else need metal? I don't think so. Okay, so one thing which we can do is we can actually go ahead and go up to the automotive materials again. And so in this, you can see that you have this folder called car paint, and it has like colored metals essentially. So we can just select the orange one and apply it to this, just so it has like, you know, some more reflections and like some a little more realistic, you know. So just apply it to that. And this part right here, we can also apply, like, maybe go to metal and then apply like a lighter metal to this, something like that. So yeah, I think it looks pretty good. And now we can just turn the glass on again, and you can see that the glass makes it look a lot more realistic. So this is without the glass and this is with the glass, so it makes it look much better. And I think our texturing for the watch is essentially complete. I'm just making sure that we have everything. Oh yeah, this part is left. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go back to where we had the leather material. So I'm trying to look for that. So it's leather. Yeah, this leather right here. Let's apply this leather. And this leather to this as well. Perfect. Now let's go ahead and start working on the scene itself and sort of like just make it look beautiful, you know, because right now it looks pretty basic. But at least our watch is done and it has all the textures. Make sure to save everything and let's go ahead and get started with the scene. So first things first, we're going to have to bring it closer to the ground. So I'm just going to select the watch, right click, select all descendants, and then just bring it down pretty close to the ground like that. And now we can go ahead and import, go ahead and add Quixel content, and we can look for the wooden slab, right? So I'm just going to look for wood. And so it's a good idea to just search for wood and just go through all these assets. I think this is the asset which I had in the background, so I'm just going to add that as well. Just add that and just place it back there somewhere. And let's look for the other the wooden slab that the watch was on. Now again, I don't want you to like restrict yourself with these assets, like the exact ones which I used. I would actually recommend you to like, you know, look for different things and like just use your own creativity, you know, and just look for different assets. But the one which I used was this one, if you want to do the exact same thing. So just add it, and you can see that it has two assets right here. So yeah, essentially it gives you two options. One of them has something like a broken piece and the other one doesn't. So you can just choose whichever one you want. I don't think it really matters as much, but yeah. So what we can do is we can just rotate it like that. I'm not going to rotate it exactly 90 degrees because again, if you want to make things look realistic, you want to make sure that things are not things are not like very perfect, and things are a little random, because that's how they are in real life. Nothing is actually perfect, you know. So yeah, we just want that. Let's place it right here, and now we can select the watch, all descendants, and rotate it like that. Now this I am going to rotate 90 degrees because I don't want it to, you know, intersect with the with the slab. And I'm actually going to scale it up a little bit because I think it's a little too small. No, not that much. Just a tad bit. Yeah, scaling things like in Unreal Engine is a hassle, to be honest. It's very hard to, like, you know, scale things on a very small level. I actually, never mind. I'm not going to do that because it's just too much work. So just place it somewhere here. And instead what we can do is we can actually reduce the size of the slab, because I obviously don't want the slab to be that big relative to the watch. So in let me show you the actual render. So this is the actual render, and you can see that the scale of the slab is roughly the same as the watch. So let me close this out. Just scale it down a little more. Something like that should be good. Then move it forward like that. I think that should be good. And obviously we have to rotate it. The watch. My bad. Select all descendants and then place your camera somewhere there. Rotate it slightly. Turn off snapping, and then rotate it slightly like that. Move it down. Just make sure none of the parts are intersecting with the slab. Even if they're like slightly above the slab, that's fine. That's how it's supposed to be, but make sure nothing is intersecting, because yeah, if your viewers can tell that, then it's gonna look pretty bad. So yeah, that's our watch, and it's looking pretty good. Okay, so after this, let's go back to the scene and let's see what else we need. So we need some cubes for the background, so for covering the background essentially. And let's move this to the side for now. Let's add a cube. Let's bring it up. I'm gonna move back like that. Bring it right here. Just place it somewhere there in the back, and then scale it up this axis and duplicate it like that. Place it here, scale it up in this axis, and then just duplicate this once again on the other side like that. Actually, I don't think we need it to be this big on this side. Just make it like something like that, because obviously we are gonna add the door somewhere here, so I think that's fine. Something like this should be good. Again, we can obviously make tweaks later on, but for now I think this should be good. What I would want to do is I would want to add a camera before. So just click add cinematic and then add a cine camera actor. And so right click this, pilot, and then it's pretty far from our scene, so I'm just going to move it in the right position. Just go to the watch. And okay, so we want it to be placed somewhere here like that, something like that. And so I'm going to make some tweaks to the camera now. So what I'm going to do first thing is that I'm going to change the sensor width and sensor height to 25, both of them, 25 and 25, because I want this to be a square render. And just bring it closer, actually bring it far, move it far. And I'm going to increase the focal length. So the current focal length, I'm going to increase it to something like 50, because I want it to be like more zoomed in. And right now you can see that nothing is actually in focus. So in order to make this in focus, I'm going to change the manual focus distance, or you can just select any object like that. And yeah, so you can see right now the depth of field is actually very, very shallow. We don't want it to be like that shallow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the aperture to something like 10. And so you really need to increase it that much, because At this scale, you need the aperture to like be pretty high, because the focus, the depth of field is just gonna be too much, you know. So yeah, actually I might want to increase it to something like 20, honestly, because I want more of the scene to be in focus. And yeah, make sure to set the focus point to the correct point. Perfect. And I'm actually going to reduce the size of this because it's pretty low quality. Like, you can tell that it's low quality. I don't want that. Something like that. And then just, yeah, place it here. How about we rotate it and have the other side face us? I think this side looks better, honestly, compared to that side. Just place it right here. And we can obviously we can lower the watch so that it's sitting on there. I'm going to get out of the camera first. Go back to default viewport. Oops, my bad. And just place it right here.